So today we're going to be looking at the correct interpretation of the model of the Hare Krishna science that was perpetuated in the West and helped people elevate to bhakti, which is love for God and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And today we're going to show how Christ and Krishna are one and how the ancient texts relayed this information through something called cryptograms that allow us to see into the spiritual dimensions and use words to describe what is seen in the higher realms of existence. And it's all based off this passage. And Santos Bonacci has also taught this in many of his presentations and shown that the history of Krishna and the history of Christ are transcendental and take place on higher planes of existence, on the inner plane. And when they're explained by the seers or the prophets or the mystics, it is interpreted as historical facts when these are actually transcendental truths. So we're going to go based off of here in chapter 4 of Jaiva Dharma. And that book is by Suri Bhakti Vinoda Thakura. And you can read this book online or even just buy it. It's definitely worth it. And here is the chapter we're going to be looking at to gain evidence and knowledge that the scriptures are anagogical and much more than just historical facts, that you have a personal relationship with Krishna or Christ, even without meeting that person in the physical dimension in person. So let's find out why that is. So in this book, it's two people having a conversation. It's a question and answer, and it says, how can Suri Krishna's form be eternal, since he takes birth, performs activities, and gives up his body? Babaji replies, Suri Krishna's form is Sat Chitananda, ever existing, full of knowledge, and completely blissful. His birth, activities, and leaving the body have no connection with mundane matter. Lahiri asks, then why have such descriptions been given in Mahabharata and other Shastras? Babaji replies, the eternal truth defies description, for it is beyond words. The pure soul in its spiritual aspect sees the transcendental form and pastimes of Suri Krishna, but when he describes that supreme reality in words, it appears just like the worldly mundane history. Those who are eligible to extract the essence from the text, such as the Mahabharata, experience Krishna's pastimes as they are. However, when people of mundane intelligence hear these descriptions, they interpret them in different ways. When one meditates on the form of Krishna, the conception that arises in the heart is limited by time and space. How can one transcend such limitations and meditate on the actual form? And that is through understanding that this actually takes place on the screen of your consciousness. In another, there was actually another translation of that book that I had, and it was really interesting because it actually said that this play of Krishna or Christ, or the historical supposed events that some people think are literal, actually take place on the screen of your consciousness. And because of that, you can experience them in a higher level because they're actually happening on the higher planes or the higher dimensions of life, and the drama is taking place within our hearts. He said that when the seers saw these visions in the higher planes of existence, that Krishna being the logos or the word, because the word is a sound, everything comes from sound, and that sound manifests everything in creation and permeates everything and is transcendental, non-historical, eternal. It's not bound by time and space. But when we explain the nectar of that information and put it into an allegorical form to explain how it works, it comes out as historical. And that's what Alvin Boy Kuhn, another great author, stated, that was in a sense another metaphor for God coming down into flesh, the transcendental becoming physical, because you're taking what is invisible and non-tangible, and you're bringing it down and saying that this is a historical place and time that this took place. Now, how it really works is this happens in 7 different layers. It happens in the seasons and the sun going through its trials. We have various different stories of Krishna, like Krishna lifting up a mountain. Krishna was standing on the heads of 7 snakes. He was stealing butter from the butter pots. And his mom saw him in the backyard, and when he was a little boy, because Krishna takes on the father, the son, and the mother. Even he produces the mother of the universe, because he's the stillness, the small witness within, the still small voice within that leads us all. But in the story, it shows the potency of that intelligence. So they tell his mom or foster mother that he ate some dirt. So they go and check and open his mouth to get the dirt out of his mouth, and she sees the entire universe within her own son, because she adopted Krishna as a child, just like Jesus, baby Jesus, God on earth is a child, maybe a baby, then he goes into maturity. Krishna also has pastimes and supposed historical events when he's a child. Now, some people think that this historical event actually took place and there's a historical Krishna, and a physical person actually opened his mouth and saw the universe within it. However, this story is a hyperbole, an exaggeration, and it allows you to open up your mind to the spirit world that surpasses logic, and understand that the child of the universe, the Holy One, within its mouth is all creation, and within stems the superfluous flow of the intelligent life of love and wisdom combined. And that's the story of Krishna and Radha, and Krishna being Purusha, the spirit, the still point, the consciousness that's still. Our consciousness is never moved within us. That's why Christ walks upon the waters. Our Christ within ourselves walks upon the nervous system and livens the waters of the nervous system, and it livens the entire physical organism, and gives us the light within to be able to distinguish between good and evil, and to pierce through the illusory nature or the dualistic nature of this realm. So let's just go ahead and read that chapter one more time, just because it's very, 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 very important. How can Suri Krishna's form be eternal, since he takes birth, performs activities, and gives up his body? This is the story, right? This is what's said that happens in the physical plane. Some people believe that this happened historically. Babaji replies, Suri Krishna's form is Satchitananda, ever existing, full of knowledge, and completely blissful. His birth activities and leaving the body are no connection with mundane matter. Lahiri, then why have such descriptions been given in the Mahabharata and other Shastras? He replies, the eternal truth defies description, for it is beyond words. The pure soul in his spiritual aspect sees the transcendental form and pastimes of Suri Krishna. When he describes that supreme reality in words, it appears just like worldly mundane history. Those who are eligible to extract the essence from the Shastras, such as the Mahabharata, experience Krishna's pastimes as they are, because they're eternally going on now. His pastimes are actually going on 7 different planes, astrologically, seasonally, alchemically, even physiologically within our body. The Christ within is going on his voyage, or Noah is going on his voyage, and our body's the ark, our body's the cross. We are the cave that Krishna is born in prison to his parents, in prison, in a jail cell, because the Christ within on the physical plane is born within a physical human body, which is, it used to be known as the prison, just philosophically, because this world is so darkened by the senses. We're developing in this womb, and we don't have full access to the light of the spiritual worlds anymore. We are conditioned, and hence that Christ spark within us, Krishna within our hearts, that is being born within the prison, or Christ being born in the manger. And instead of saying that this happened on this day and time in this person in a country that you've never met in person, is to take what is transcendental and bring it down, and you're bringing God into human form in a way that is allegorically supposed to be understood, that takes place within yourself and also on various different levels. Now, Christ, Krishna are personal, highly transcendental facts, and they are actually the bread of the universe. They are the bread and sustenance of all beings, and that's the metaphor for eating, Jesus's body. Essentially, he's the bread, he's the light, the intelligence, love, and wisdom. And Krishna's all of his pastimes are always mimicking a mastery over the physical domain. He's always walking upon the heads of serpents. He's saving his family and friends with holding up a huge mountain. He is escaping from the jail, imprisoned. Uh, he's always up to highly transcendental activities that take place on the seventh dimension or the fifth, on higher planes of existence. And it's said that these seers and prophets were able to see these wonderful stories on the screen of their consciousness. So what they're seeing, they're peering into the spiritual realm and experiencing the nectar from a more transcendental point of view, because that's how people have been able to have this personal relationship with a being that they didn't know historically. Um, they're actually already somewhat cultivating a relationship with this transcendental being, Krishna or Christ, which is the supreme personality of the universe. It's actually where all of our personalities emanate from, and where we receive our ability to know, to understand, to perceive. And when we do see real historical pastimes of Lord Krishna or Christ, it's actually the Christ within ourselves and the Krishna within ourselves that is an impulse that makes us behave in a godly way. And we are the hands of God. Man is monos, hands are the monos, and the hands are the doing the work and building the physical realm for the spirit. So we are the temple that is built with neither hammer nor sword. There is no other temple on the physical plane other than the human body that wasn't built with tools. And these are the tools of the demiurge, or the creator physical nature of God, where that uses the mental force of the creator and does its will to create these physical realities and wombs or tombs, so that the soul can come here and develop into individuals. The Jiva, which is the separate aspect from Krishna, which sparks off the flame of Krishna. Krishna is the eternal conscious, personal conscious being that gives us all of our little flames. He's the eternal candle, and he lights our candle. And our candle is now fully in quality the same, but quantitatively different, because the candle is a candle that came from it. It was already there. And even though it's lighting many, many candles, it never distinguishes or diminishes itself. It doesn't get lost in the candles. The Supreme Krishna or Christ stays aloof from all the candles of creation. That's why in the Upanishads, he who understands the three aspects of God or the Lord, which is the one who sees all things, the main one, the universe, and the souls within. So you have the seer, the seen, and all the individual jivas, souls that experience. And this experience is to create within our hearts an attraction and love from the source of which we came from. Now, the stories of Krishna and Christ are there to elevate the soul to a higher mind and be able to understand how to transcend duality and reach back into the highest heavens and spiritual planes. If you understand this knowledge from a higher perspective, I would definitely meditate on these stories and understand that they can live in your consciousness to live in a more higher way and see things from a higher plateau and be able to relinquish you from the attachment and bondage of being here in the physical womb or tomb where we forget who we are. And these stories are called cryptograms. As Thomas H. Burgoyne and Alvin Boyd Kuhn explained, these cryptograms, meaning crypt, meaning cryptic, hidden wisdom and knowledge, and grams, pictures. These are cryptograms that show spiritual transcendental truths that we cannot perceive with the physical senses. And that's why the stories are so magical. Christ and Krishna are personal beings that exist on the higher planes of existence. They are the personality or the word of God that enlivens all of us and animates every physical organism in the entire universe. Christ and Krishna are Purusha, the masculine aspect of spirit that impregnates the universal womb and manifests all of the creation as well as all the organisms within it, all of the beings. There's two types of beings. There's beings that are jivas in the spiritual world, beyond the spiritual, but beyond the astral and atmospheric. There's the astral realms and spiritual dimensions called the spiritual sky. And there's jivas and individuals that are incarnated in the physical plane who are waiting to be promoted or graduated up into these higher planes of existence. Now, Christ and Krishna is the supreme personality. All of the qualities that we have in our day-to-day life as human beings, man or woman, are manifestations of these ideals and principalities that are beyond the physical senses. So, for example, courage, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, beauty. Now, beauty is a form of excellence that shows the God's excellence by the physical manifestation of in the physical realm being a reflection of the invisible, manifest its glory through beauty. All attractiveness is another quality of God. God being all attractive, so Krishna or Ram or Jesus are all attractive one, all glory one, the all courageous, the one that is willing to exceed expectations, to go above and beyond. It's our ultimate human nature within. As Alvin Boy Kuhn says, the Christ principle within, all cultures have been cultivating the inner Christ within. When you cultivate this Christ within, it's your ability to be a compassionate, loving, civil human being that is able to perceive into the higher dimensions and be in communion with the Holy Spirit or with God, the Creator, through that divine connection. The Son of God is the first emanation of God, which was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. Christ, when we see Christ face to face, is when we see human beings here and now acting in a Christ-like manner. That is the logos, and that logos is what allows all human beings to be more than just animalistic and only based on impulse. That Christ within us saves us by lifting us beyond the senses of just the carnal nature of the mortality of the human body, and helps us understand the mystery of resurrection and spirit for our eternal immortal body. When the jiva goes back after the physical realm, it can acquire one of these bodies made of fire, thus go return to the portal of the sun and live within the sun realms. This needs a higher velocity of a body. We need to transmute our atomic body into a superfluous protoplasmic body, which will allow us to live in the higher dimensions as a personal separated individual and attain higher and higher as we get closer to Christ or Krishna, which is that word or the logos or the vibration within that you can hear if you're silent. Silence is the key. Silent and be still so that you can perceive that inner noise, that inner vibration that will let you have the superfluous image of Brahman or the divine Godhead through the word, through following the word, which is the path, the way of accessing that inner plane. And once you elevate to that and understand that Christ is an eternal being that transcends the physical realm, so that's why you have a relationship with this Christ, even though you did not meet in person. So this proves that this Christ existed beyond time, beyond the physical plane. And these characteristics of Krishna being the God incarnated, as well as his pastime as Lord Ram, Ram being the perfect householder, Ram being the upright, righteous, courageous warrior, the ideal human being. First and foremost, each character of these scriptures, whether it be the Bhagavad Gita, whether it be Srimad Bhagavatam, Upanishads, the New Testament or the Old Testament, the humans in these stories are the ideals of man and what he can attain to if he follows his inner consciousness, the still small voice within.